Chapter 10 of A Different Cowboy by Joe Jones. Johnny finally makes it into Georgia after weeks of travel. He still believes Tessa has only been in Georgia maybe a week because he still does not know that she has been taken by train and had been in Georgia for a very long time now. He comes into a small country town and sees a saloon. When he walks in, everyone talking in the saloon stops. They stare at the rugged, dirty cowboy whose only bath lately has been the rain, and no hotel room to lay his head. His spurs cling on the hardwood as he walks up to the bar. He stops halfway and looks at everyone staring at him. They all have longer beards than what he's used to and dress very different. Hillbillies, he thinks to himself. He did not know what had just taken place a few days prior when Tessa told Smith her cowboy would be coming for her. Smith had gone into town and warned everyone about this. So even though Johnny didn't know them, they knew all about him and why he was there. Johnny stands at the bar and the barkeeper says nothing. Johnny turns back around to the crowd and says, "What's the matter? Y'all ain't never seen a cowboy before? Ever heard of Texas?" No one says a word. The folks in this town hated men like Johnny, who stood up for colored folks. They all revered Master Smith as being one of the men who were going to keep fighting for their way of life that they'd known for so very long. Many in the saloon that day were also his kinfolk. Johnny shakes his head and says, as he turns back to the barkeeper, "Let me get a whiskey." But as he faces back to the barkeeper, he's met with a shotgun in his face. "What the hell did I do? Y'all got something against whiskey here?" "No, sir," says the barkeeper. "We know why you're in town, and we don't want you here. So why don't you take your color-loving ass out of here? And I reckon you'd better leave right now and hop on the first train back to Texas, cowboy." Johnny looks at the man with anger. See, you shouldn't have said that. I thought I'd find some southern hospitality if I walked in here like I've always heard. The only thing you're about to find is a rope around your neck while I pull you down this road for all the folks to see like you're some kind of damn parade. Johnny looks past the barkeeper at the shelf behind him. Can I just come back there and take a better look at all the whiskey y'all got here? It's different from what we have in Texas. Just want to look and I'll be on my way. Promise. Just lower your gun." The man stares at Johnny, then slightly lowers his shotgun. "Hurry up!" Johnny walks behind the bar with all eyes on him. A few country folk grab their weapons just in case he tries something funny. Johnny stares at the bottles. Never seen this one before. He grabs a bottle and looks at it. Or this one. He takes another bottle, holding one in each hand. See, back in Texas, I used to run saloons. Me and a good friend of mine named Sam. He grins as he faces the shelf with his back turned to the man. "I don't give a shit what you used to run. Now time's up, partner. Get the hell out." When he says this, Johnny turns around quickly, smashing one of the whiskey bottles over his head, knocking the man cold to the ground. The crowd in the saloon jump to their feet and start shooting. Johnny drops to the floor behind the bar. He takes the shotgun from the barkeeper and says, Thanks for helping me keep my sobriety. I made a promise to that woman you talk about." Bullets fly above the bar, breaking bottles all over them as whiskey runs down the wall and all over Johnny's clothes. He throws a bottle from behind the bar and everyone stops shooting momentarily to move out of the way and avoid being hit by it. When they do this, Johnny pops up and fires at them, striking 3 men. The gunfire starts again. He sees a back door and makes a run for it. The men follow, trying to get over the slippery bar, being cut by glass from the broken bottles. He runs to the front and jumps on his horse instead of jumping in the wagon, because from behind they will be shooting at the wagon thinking he's in there, giving him more of a chance of survival. Danger rides as fast as he can, and Johnny yells, "Yah! Yah!" He hears gunshots fly past his body as they pierce through the covered wagon. He looks back to see 3 men coming up behind him, firing. They aren't going to let this incident go. Johnny grabs his revolver and fires back, striking one of the men in the chest. Johnny had been in many gunfights before, so this was nothing new to him. The whole trip, Johnny had stayed on the beaten path to Georgia, going from town to town. But now these 2 men were driving him further and further off the road into the woods as they relentlessly fired on him. A gunshot rings out and Johnny is hit in the arm. "Ah!" he yells as the bullet hole burns deep in his arm and blood begins to run down, seeping through the sleeve of his shirt. Johnny keeps riding, though. He knows he can't give up or surrender, or they will surely kill him. And his love for Tessa is too strong. His horse keeps sprinting, and he climbs off the horse and crawls into the wagon, staying low where the 2 men can't see. They continue to fire, missing every other shot as their horses bounce them up and down. Johnny sticks his rifle out and fires 2 fatal shots, one after the other, and the men fall off their horses. He stops his horse, Danger, and walks up to one of the horses who no longer have a rider. He brings him over to the wagon. "What do you say, Danger? Need some help pulling this old wagon?" He hooks up the other horse and rides deeper into the woods, lost and bleeding. After a short while, he comes across a small white church and hears people singing inside. He holds his bloody arm with his other hand and walks into the sanctuary. He immediately notices it's a colored church. The preacher standing in front of the congregation puts his hand up for all the church to stop singing. Once again, Johnny feels every eye on him. He begins to walk down the aisle to the front of the church. As he does, people notice he is bleeding and have a gun on his side. In fear, some of the women grab their children and begin to scream. Johnny makes it to the front and stands next to the pastor and says, "I just got out of a gunfight." "Clearly," says the pastor. And I'm lost." "Clearly," shouts someone from the congregation. Johnny holds his dripping arm as he explains everything to the pastor and the congregation. He tells them that he's in love with a colored woman named Tessa, and he's traveled all the way from Texas to fight for her and bring her back with him safely. He tells of how he's looking for the Williams plantation and that she was taken from their home in Texas to be made into a slave again here in Georgia. He asks for help finding the plantation to find her. After hearing this, a few congregation members get up and walk out of the church yelling things like, "I'll never help a white man," and "He's lying." One man stands up and yells, "Yeah, I bet he's just trying to steal her back and take her back to Texas to be his slave again." "No, it's not that. Please," Johnny pleads with them. "You see, she's pregnant with our child, and I've got to get to her before our child is born. You don't understand. I love that woman with everything you see I am, and she loves me just as much. I'm her cowboy and she's my princess, my queen, my strength, and without her I'm nothing. She and I have been through hell and back to keep our love alive. So please help me." The pastor walks closer to the front of the congregation and says, Church, this man is telling the truth. How do you know? Shouts someone. Because I grew up on the Williams plantation, and I recently heard he was still capturing people, making them slaves. So yes, I believe this man tells the truth. I believe this man is not evil, like the other white folks around here that hate us. I see the passion in this man for his woman. Passion that some of you don't even have for your wives. I'll tell you how to get there. But first, you need to get that arm taken care of before you bleed to death, son. He instructs one woman to tie a tourniquet around his arm to stop the bleeding. One young man stands up and says, "You're really going to help him? After what his people have done to us?" The preacher focuses on the young, angry man. Yes, because even if he is my enemy, what did Jesus say about your enemies? He said, pray for them. The young man throws his hand at the preacher. But as he begins to walk out, he says, "See, I'm done with God and all this Jesus stuff. That's the white man's religion. The white man's God, they forced onto us to control us. And they're controlling you, Pastor." This angers the preacher, and he yells, "Sit down, boy. Let me give you and all of this congregation a lesson here today. The Bible says that Jesus and his parents fled to Egypt to get away from King Herod, who wanted Jesus killed. Son, Egypt is in Africa. Jesus belonged to Africa before he belonged to the white folks. We had salvation first, then they came along. Jesus is not the white man's religion or God. Jesus himself isn't white. The book of Revelation tells us that. Now, if the white folks choose to ignore that verse, that's their problem. But like I said, he's not the white man's God. He's not just the colored man's God. He's the God of all people, and will accept and save anyone who calls upon his name, son. Johnny walks forward and says, "I'm saved because a colored woman taught me about Christ." After hearing all of this, the young man takes his seat again. The preacher tells Johnny how to make it to the Williams plantation and leaves Johnny with a prayer that he finds Tessa. This concludes Chapter 10 of A Different Cowboy by Joe Jones. Please let me know what you thought about this chapter in the comments below, and subscribe for more content like this. If you have not seen the first book, please go to my playlist, A Different Cowboy, and watch from the beginning. There is also a playlist, A Different Cowboy Part 2, which this is on. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. As always, let me know what you thought about this in the comments. Until next time, this is the Cup of Joe Show. I'm Joe Jones. This has just been your daily dosage.